Well, greetings, Gundam Maniacs. Welcome to the Gundam Explained podcast. I bet it looks different to you. And yes, it looks different to us too. Yeah, this is great. Episode 65 of the podcast. I got Steven here. Steven, how you doing, man?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Normally we have time to chat, but I guess in this case we kind of like quickly just jumped in. So
Yeah, well,
I'll have some stuff.
we're trying to improve the quality of the show for you guys, right? So that's where a lot of the bells and whistles that you're pulling in are coming into play, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. Sayla's saying, "Oh, you're using the old music. I miss the other opening music, and I still have that. So yeah, I'm going to switch that. But also, you guys can see look at the comments on screen. So I'll be able to like really focus in. But yeah, no. Anyway, this is an attempt just to make the stream more straightforward for us, easier, so we can just get to the content, not worry about technical difficulties. But you guys can say, "Hey, we can't hear you. You're too low." I have the options here.
Yeah. And we still have technical difficulties. I mean, I've got two names and you've only got one name. And that's
Actually, you got two names, Stephen S. But what if I put let's see, let me change it real quick. Yeah, there we go. Zeta Stan.
perfect. That's very fitting.
No, that's cool. Well, good to see everyone. Robert Westfall, of course. Dark Samurai Neo, good to see you. Goose, good to see you. Let's see, Zionic Shadow, Brian Zanichelli. Well, cool. Yeah, let's get started. A couple interesting things. There's always random Gundam topics to talk about, but while Hatter and I don't necessarily want to like always be negative, there was an interesting article that I didn't even read. It was just the title that said old people don't like Gundam. So I thought,
I got so mad at the headline that I didn't even bother reading the article. I went straight to YouTube and I made 7 reaction videos about it, talking about how
actually, you know what? Sayla just gave me an idea. So watch your title here for a second. For those that are listening. This is even better. Look at your title. There you go.
It's very fitting.
No, well, cool. Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, no, I wanted to. I just got back from a happy hour. I know it's Whiskey Wednesday. Work, my job had a happy hour, and I had an old fashioned. I don't really drink too often, and I wasn't going to, but it was cool to see people from work I don't talk too often. Had a drink, just got to chill, telling people, "Hey guys, I got to leave, got a podcast to do." And they're like, "Oh, what is it?" And then it's like I show them Gundam. "Hey guys, look, Gundam," and no one knew what I was talking about. No one knew.
Yep.
And someone's like, "Japanese anime?"
Let me get this straight. You're a guy in your 30s and you have a podcast about a Japanese cartoon from the 70s.
That is right. I love that description. No, it's pretty interesting. It was just kind of fun because I was catching up with people I haven't talked to in a while and kind of showing them all that. And it really made me think of this topic we're going to get to in a second, where, yeah, that title was like, yeah, I think teenagers think Gundam is for old people, or like mecha anime in general. That's kind of a Japanese thing, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Hatter, did you get into anything Gundam related this week other than your awesome video last night that you guys got to go watch, where he 3D printed custom pieces to the Zaku 2? So if you guys haven't been watching the series, go check it out on his channel.
Dude, thank you. Yeah, that's been the project du jour, as it were. And of course, we've always got a new episode of G-Witch every week, which is fun. Arguing with people on Twitter about Gundam, that never gets old. So
yeah, no. In something that was interesting, this is kind of Gundam like. It's a Lego Wolverine mech. So
those are some serious claws.
Yes.
I assume that they're not retractable at that.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I saw these at no, it was on Amazon. It was $6, and I was like, Mecha, Lego, Wolverine. I just had to get it. And really the only other Gundam related stuff I've really been doing this week is just the videos that I put up. So actually, let's look at that real quick. Did all that work? All that work. See, we switched scenes, still got the stuff going on. Let's see. I'm gonna grab this question real quick. Oh wait, hold on.
I was teasing you, saying like, "Oh, my
Oh,
audio's not
you
working."
are
That's
good. You are
no, no.
good.
The
I
new
knew it.
software is working out brilliantly. You don't have to worry about me being muted.
No, that's hilarious. Oh, hey, good to see you, Ian. And look, I'm showing off the
Cheers,
idea
buddy.
that we can put the little text in there. Let's
Yeah,
see.
that's
Robert had a
actually
question.
cool.
I'm scared to read this. What would you think of hosting a gig of podcast with a new reviewer of Gundam? Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Get me later more details on that one. Hey, Gundam Wing, good to see you. Lucas Garrett, good to see you too. But just real quick, just this past week was the episode 2 reaction for Witch Mercury. We won't talk about it too much. I don't want to kind of do like where we talk about a whole, but maybe later we'll kind of talk about our
Yeah,
thoughts
I don't
on
want
it.
this to be the weekly G Witch podcast.
Yeah. That could get old real quick. And then, speaking of G Witch, the light novel audiobook, I read that. I remember we were making a joke last time how I don't read books, and this is a light novel. It was so short that I'd recorded myself.
Yeah, Gundam Explained ASMR was how Sayla described it.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, you turned on your Hatter voice, got real low on the microphone,
No,
and
no, really, that inspired
soothing.
me. Yeah, your some of your videos you have like that. I was like, I gotta make use of this good mic. But no, it was very interesting reading that because it almost sounds like Ariel could be sentient, but at the same time, that could just be the way that it's being written in order for the context of this narrative. But what do you think, Hatter?
I mean, I kind of got that impression from just the prologue was that there's almost a childlike innocence to the Ariel Gundam, or in the prologue, it's the Lefrith, right?
Mhm.
Where
Right.
the reason that Soletta's mother can't interface with the Gundam is because she's an adult, and the Gundam itself is a child, and so it requires a child's mind in order to interact with it.
Right.
That was my
No,
theory.
yeah. I
So I
remember
was
you bringing
like,
that up before. Yeah.
I think that that might be the direction that they go, and that's kind of cool if it is. If not,
Yeah.
at least it's some artistic, some flavor to it. Obviously, we've had some mobile suits in the past that kind of have personalities, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think in Gundam Wing, there's frequently conversations between like Hero and the Wing Gundam. He's constantly saying like, Wing, what do you want me to do? Kind of stuff. So
And I like that. Like, I've always, I say I always, but in the past couple of years I've been into Gundam, being a fan of filmmaking, if I was to make a movie of 0079, there would be some sort of Amuro RX-78 2 bromancing going on, but I wouldn't want to make it like obvious. It would be a question to the audience: is the RX-72 sentient, or is it just more of the way it's filmed to show that these characters are like the center?
yeah, it's like listening to one half of a phone conversation, right? Like you don't know
Mm,
whether there's someone on the other line. You just know that the person's speaking. Or
yeah.
like Garfield without Garfield, Gundam
Oh
without
yeah.
Gundam. it's,
Yeah.
it's just Amuro talking to himself.
Oh, and Lucas is saying same with Mikazuki, August, and Barbados. And I haven't watched IBO yet. I just know that's an IBO thing. But
Yeah.
that's okay. That's cool.
It's kind of a trope, I think, for a lot of the Gundam main characters to kind of talk to their Gundams.
Yeah,
Which,
that is true.
I get it. I talk to my car sometimes. I'm like, please get home. I swear, I'll fill you up when we have money.
Yeah, and I talk to video games. I'm always cussing at them for some reason. But you know, man, that gave me an idea, and then I just lost it. So then I'll continue talking. But another video I had
Yeah.
up was for that high grade messer. So from Hathaway, because we don't have too many of these, I guess, Hathaway ones, but I was actually corrected. So Zionic Frenrir in chat, good to see you. Made an awesome comment on my video about the messer. Some more background information I thought was cool. So check that out. That was a cool kit. And I complained about the hands in here, and Zionic Frenrir kind of explains it because the hands on the messer just look like a toy a giant doll toy hand. I don't know how to explain it. They really should have spent more time, but he was just talking about, it's a bigger suit anyway. They're having to put more money into this anyway. So they do have to, figure out where they're going to, make concessions, I guess.
It's generally larger, and I mean, yeah, I loved your review of the Messer. The Messer is a fascinating suit. It's kind of blend of Xeonic and Federation technologies. It's a very it's a product of its time, I would say.
Yeah.
In lore speaking.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love. I love about that stuff. Jedi Sailor said a boy and his robot, and that reminded me of what I was going to talk about. I don't know if anyone's ever played the Titanfall. There's Titanfall 2 specifically, because you get your mech in there, and he talks to him. I think he's called maybe he's called BD or something, or I know it's similar to a Star Wars character, right? There's BB-8, so I think this guy's name is BD, and the guy talks to, and I think BD talks back also. Did you ever play that? Okay.
No,
yeah.
I haven't played Titanfall or Titanfall 2, but I'm aware of the memes, and I know of the
okay,
the tragic,
yeah,
where men cried, as it were.
Yeah, because I think Titanfall 2, it was interesting because the Titanfall franchise, because it was really making mechs center focus in a video game. And while the first one was fun, I don't think it was that great, but it was just good enough that since it was backed by EA, enough people played it to where they made a sequel, and the sequel was fantastic. The sequel had the single player campaign, and I loved. There just needs to be more mech games, and so I want to take no, I'm gonna wait. I was gonna jump to that subject, but no, we'll do that in a second. The next thing I want to speak on. Am I still sure? Yeah. Okay, so I asked, did you all see episode 2 of Witch from Mercury? What was the post-credit scene about? What other anime has post-credit sequences? So Jeff is, I think that the mobile suit they showed could be the one that Soletta has to go up against in her next duel. And I think that's about accurate. Now, I will say I accidentally saw a spoiler through merchandise. So I don't know how much of a spoiler that's supposed to be, but it did confirm who's actually in that suit. So I don't know if I should say it or not. You guys in the chat, let me know. Oh, here we go. BD1 was Cal's droid buddy in Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, so the one from Titanfall had a similar name. I just forget what it was.
Yeah.
Right? But I got it.
There's always some call sign, right? There's always some unit number or
BT.
BT.
I was so close. D and T is the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. So the Red Machine looks like a next generation Jet Turk prototype MS. So I guess it's the machine that Guel will use for a rematch with Soletta. I doubt it incorporates any new tech data that Prospera have given Jeturk in exchange of their support, assuming the duel means to take place right afterwards. Sorry. The only way to justify such thing would be with a time skip. Yeah. So when it comes to that Lady Prospera, I see people online saying that it's Soletta's mom, which kind of, on one hand, that would be an obvious, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same
time, it's probable, but
where are people getting the idea? Is it because it's an older lady that's from that corporation? And it almost it makes sense, but it would almost be too obvious to where it wouldn't be as exciting unless they make us hang on the edge of our seats the entire season into the end and then reveal.
Well, and the thing that you would be wondering is well, why would Soletta's mom, come to back her up? You would think that she would be, way in Soletta's corner if she suddenly showed up on the scene and was like, hey, my daughter's getting into all these duels at school, which sounds kind of ridiculous. My kid's getting in fights at school. I'm going to go and talk to the principal. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's like I said, it's a probable, possible, maybe, but maybe a little too obvious.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, because she goes to the school or in front of Delling to say, like, it's not a Gundam. And which is the first time I'm thinking now that's like the catchphrase when normally it is a Gundam or it's a Gundam. Now it's like this is like it's not a Gundam. But
That's exactly what a Gundam would say.
but again, like I think they're gonna do right with this anyway. So far it's been fun to watch. So
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. Um let's see. Okay, Brian Zanichelli is saying something interesting. He says I think somewhere in the Origins manga, Amuro heard a voice in the RX-78-2 Gundam. That's cool. I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to look into that. And that could be more of like it's more of Amuro's talking to himself, or it's in his head he's thinking. But I like that, where it's like, what is it really? Um,
Yeah, I
I'll
like
have to
when
look
it's
that up.
left ambiguous as opposed to kind of directly in your face, like you would get with like a Gundam Sentinel. Gundam Sentinel is very blatantly the mobile suit has an AI in it that's talking to the pilot.
Oh, cool. I have not dived into that, but that's cool to know. So
Yeah,
it's
fascinating story. It's another light novel. So if you want to do
there
another
we
Gundam
go.
Explained ASMR, Gundam Sentinel is a
Will
short read.
do. Okay, I'll have to do that. Um, okay, so going back to some of these, Daisuke Niwa, the red mobile suit at the end of the episode is called the Daryl Ball. It's going to take a while. Daryl Ball. I know because there's a model kit of it coming out in December 2022. Yeah, when I was on Hobby Link Japan, there's like a whole lineup of kits coming out in December.
Isn't that such a shame when the merchandise spoils the
Ah, yeah. Not
it,
not
it- it's like
only
it's
that,
like
you
releasing a
can't wait.
Palpatine action figure
Oh yeah.
when you don't know that episode 9 has Palpatine in it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like uh, it's like I want yeah, it's like you don't want to be spoiled, but I want the merchandise now. It's like I
Just
wish there was a way to where that what we wanted would be available.
yeah, just give me the kit, but don't tell me anything about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. I like that. Although it's like that a lot, I think, for general Gunpla fans, right? They buy a kit not really knowing the context. Um,
Yeah,
we're just the types where we love the story. So,
exactly.
okay, Latin XS double O had them to the point that you'd be missing context for the next episode. Yeah, that was interesting. There was some when I was watching Double O, which I still think is a fantastic Gundam show. Sometimes I would just be letting the credits run, and then there would be more story, and I was like, "What?" And then sometimes I forget to check it, and then yeah, like he's saying, sometimes you wouldn't have the context for the next episode. So,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, I
Jimmy,
mean
the GP. Oh, what's up?
no, I mean there's definitely benefits to running a little bit of the next episode to kind of tease what's happening.
Yeah.
But sometimes, either it gives too much of the story away or you're kind of like, what?
Well, it's cool. Yeah, yeah. There is a little bit of that because it's interesting how mostly it would be like next time on Gundam, and then it would be whatever happening. And I like it in Double O where it was just like another scene, like an end or post credits thing in a movie. So
Yeah. Well, and I loved in the original series how it would always end with the like, who will survive?
yeah,
Like,
I know. I
which
love all those little sound effects.
oh,
Yeah.
it's so perfect because like, yeah, who is gonna survive?
And-
It's like Game of
yeah,
Thrones. Every character's on the chopping block at some point.
that's true. I didn't really think of it in that way, how they're trying to make it seem very high stakes. Yeah. Didn't really think that. So Jimmy the GBO2 is saying next dual opponent machine is that one. So that's cool. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the next episode. In fact, even my wife has been watching it too. Um, so when I do my second viewing, it's with her, and it's just as enjoyable the second time around.
Awesome.
Right.
You
Okay, next
laugh.
up. And actually let me go look at chat real quick because I love that I can click on people's chat.
Isn't that so cool?
Let's see. Lucas has something here. Because it's a mission of vengeance, Stephen, it's not that she doesn't have faith in her daughter. It's about accomplishing the long-term mission to avenge those killed in the prologue. So that's a good point, too. So it's more like, even though she's, according to the novel, sent Ariel out and Soletta to do the thing, I guess she's intervening every once in a while to make sure it keeps pushing forward. But, yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those it reeks of like Dr. Evil, No, I'm just going to put them in an easily escapable situation and assume everything went to plan. What? I don't.
Dude, I
It's-
love Dr. Yule. Um, and then Ian is saying, looks like Steven is going to have to fully 3D print a box and not include a name on it so that people can wonder what its name is to avoid spoilers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna 3D print a block of resin that you carve into your own mobile suit, and that's the joy of it. It's like a pet rock.
Nice.
It's like a pet Gunpla.
Um, next time on Gundam Ball Z, did Dragon Ball have its own sort of thing?
Oh, yeah. Well, and,
Okay.
I mean, what would you show in the next episode? Because they're still just sitting there powering up.
It's right.
"Ah!"
When I was in middle school, and I remember when I was watching, or high school, I was watching the Frieza saga. I remember they were just standing there, and like the camera was like panning as one was in front, and you'd see the back of the other. But it's cool though. I'm like starting to
It is
understand the
cool.
trope and like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Um.
it's got the same campy feel to it as, an old Evil Dead movie where you're like, I get it.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
supposed to be good. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, it's supposed to like dwell on a specific sort of feeling, like a cinematic yeah feeling, and that yeah, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so here's some Patreon questions from the podcast. Goose, Adam, and Steven. You two always talk highly about Gundam and Gunpla, but today I want you to tell us an issue you have in one of your favorite series or movie. And tell us how you would fix the issue. For example, I would pick G Gundam. My issue is that the other members of the Shuffle Alliance do not get an upgrade for their suits in the show like Domon does, or Domon. I've heard it pronounced both ways in the show. The way to fix that is when they are under the Dark Gundam's control, their suits are upgraded just like Master Asia's suit was. And, recently, for those that are supporters, you have access to our new podcast, G Watch. We're actually going through G Gundam. So I've been watching it. It's actually enjoyable. Yeah, the Shuffle Army was, or the Shuffle Army, is that what Shuffle
Shuffle
something was?
Alliance.
Shuffle Lines, there you go. But it was a neat point Goose brought up, and I want to say he brought it up in that G Watch podcast, if I remember correctly. That it's like usually at a certain point a mobile suit will then transform or they'll get new ones, and that was something that didn't happen at that point in G Fighter. Seemed like it would be a good way to introduce new suits, but that show already has so many.
I know. It's
I'm,
it's loaded.
does anyone know if there's actually a Gunpla for each suit?
There's not. I
Okay.
mean, I want to say, and I mean, Goose will probably confirm this in the chat, is that there was one of the like mobile suits in action figure for every one of the suits from G Gundam. So it's like
Oh,
they had the action figures, but not the kits.
very interesting. Because really, even though for me there's a Venn diagram of Gunpla and action figures, I think for the general market that they market to, sometimes people either just buy action figures or just buy Gunpla. Like, I noticed that a lot doing this channel.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, if a series that I like and I want to change something, so there's one thing I've thought about, but I've always never let it bother me, and that is just from the original Gundam. Even in Shar's counterattack, whenever they are showing off the psycho wave thing when something occurs, sometimes I feel like it's almost too on the nose fantastical, where I think they could have got away with just kind of bringing it in a little bit. But at the same time period, 79, also cartoon. So do you have thoughts on that? When it comes to the psycho wave stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some moments where, especially when you get into later season where, you've got Char and Amuro and Lala and you've got the ocean crashing and these types of visual metaphors, I guess is
Yeah.
a way of expressing what you're seeing. It feels a little bit like an acid trip, which
Yeah.
I think, in that period of history makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But you know, you're not quite tuned into what's going on as well as you could be.
Yeah,
So
you know
yeah,
what?
I
That's
could.
a good point with the psychedelic nature of it, because I wonder if the culture maybe in Japan at that time maybe as a whole had a better understanding of of that. So it being portrayed that way. Whereas I know, growing up in the United States, I had no idea what psychedelics did really. It was just a joke on a movie, but drugs were so bad and you would go to prison and die if you did drugs that there was no way like I even bothered
That's
having
still true.
It's still true. Um, yeah.
Don't listen to Dark Side of the Moon, kids.
um, well, and then other than that, the only other thing I would say is if they kept the original Zeta ending in the trilogy. I would have preferred that.
There you go.
Just because it would still validate Double Zeta and Camille and Fa on the beach at the end of Double Zeta. Such a great moment. Sayla and Judah's sister. It's like you're seeing everyone happy. A lot of people always complain about when, it can get dark and people can die, but there's a lot of happy moments in Double Zeta.
Yeah. Yeah, Double Zeta is a very underrated series. I think that and for a lot of reasons, like you said, there's some genuine moments I think in Double Zeta, and for its time it was if you go back and watch it, some of the animation is some of the most complex and detailed technical animation that you've ever seen. Compared to some of the other Gundam series, even the ones
Yeah.
that came after it, the background design and like just a lot of there's just a lot of rendering work done in the illustrations, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff carries over,
Mhm.
showing just how well influential, I don't know the wording is, but yeah, it's so Ian is saying there was not an MSIAA for each one.
Dang.
So what you got to do, Steven, is find out which ones didn't and then print them. Okay.
Calipers ready.
Like right there.
They're right there. No, yeah, I think that,
No,
one of the biggest shames is that we don't have a 2 scale Devil Gundam, right? Like a Dark Gundam that is the size of a planet.
You know what? That's pretty cool because I didn't know that much about how crazy mobile suits can get until not only watching G Gundam, but then like playing SD Gundam Battle Operation. No, I'm SD
Battle
Gundam
Alliance.
Battle Alliance. Oh my god. And that Dark Gundam is sick. Like,
Oh, it's awesome.
I love it. And
And got the, like,
yeah,
heads
at
coming
first
out all over the place. It's
and at first view, it's almost like at first view, like it's like, is that silly? And then immediately it is scary. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's good.
That's it.
Let's see. Okay, so I forgot. Did we get to yours?
No, well, I mean, obviously mine is that Zeta Gundam was too short. No, I'm kidding. No, honestly, if I were to criticize a Gundam series that I enjoyed, because I could bash Gundam series that I don't like, but I would turn to Char's Counterattack, the movie. Is like, as much as I really enjoyed Char's Counterattack, I think that the story beats kind of give you whiplash a little bit.
Yeah,
I think that
I can see that.
as a standalone film, you don't get enough of the backstory. They do a little bit, they try to kind of show you, hey, here's the history between Char and Amuro, here's why they have beef. But then, they kind of skip around with a lot of things. There's that scene where Quest and her hippie buddies are running around on Earth, and then the cops show up and beat them up for no reason, and you're kind of like, well, why was she hanging out with these hippies? You're kind of left to fill in a lot of blanks on your own, which, it's not terrible, but,
No, I think you're right on. I think that's something that I don't really bring up a lot because for some reason I don't mind it too much, but I think Char's Counterattack isn't as good as it could have been. It's just that it's just that it is awesome though. Because of the mobile
the
suits,
takes
because
have gotten
Amuro
so
and
hot.
Char.
I'm like, I gotta crank the AC in here. No, I'm just
No, but I really think some of the points you brought up are really valid. Like even yes, with Quest when we first meet her, I remember that was kind of confusing for a while. Like, who is
Yeah.
this? Why is she important? And then you got this guy, and then it adds up after a while. You're like, okay, that's an interesting story. But yeah, it's like almost if that was like a limited series, or like they call those
And I think you have
OVAs,
a
right?
grand total of what, 5 mobile suits in the entire movie? Like, you go from having these, dozens of mobile suits in Zeta Gundam and Double Zeta Gundam, and then you've got what? The new Gundam, the Rigazi, the Gyaradoga, the Jagan, the Zazabi,
Psycho Doga.
Yacht Doga,
Oh yeah,
and then the
Doga.
Alpha
That's right.
Zero.
Yeah.
It's like you got 6 mobile suits and a mobile armor, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah, and that's the thing. It reminds me of F91, where and that's why I appreciate this in a way because it's just fast paced. It's like you can sit down
yeah.
and watch it and enjoy yourself, but you could still be like, it's missing this, it's missing that. Now, I'm afraid to, but let's look at chat. Did anyone be like, what?
You're out of
What?
your mind. No, we were
Okay.
we were cooking ramen.
Lucas Garrett, I would have sideline Quest and Hathaway and show how Char survived the end of Zeta as part of the flashbacks. Yeah.
Exactly right.
I think that is super important, even though I understand what they were setting up with Quest and Hathaway. I just don't think that's as important as if they were to really, really allow the audience to understand Char to the point where they might even sympathize with him if you think about him coming from Zeta to Char's counterattack.
Well,
You know?
the root of the word sympathize is simp.
Okay, there you go.
No,
Yep, there you
I think you're right. I mean, I think here I'm going to ask you a pretty hot question because I
Okay.
was thinking about this the other day. Do you think that perhaps Char's counterattack is the first time we see, in the case of Yoshiyuki Tomino, um, where a director probably gets a little too much credit for the creation that they've put out there? And I would never make this comparison in any other circumstance, so please save the hate. But like, for instance, you look at a director like Hideo Kojima, who has the entire Metal Gear franchise attributed to his genius, right? But ultimately, what made Metal Gear successful was not necessarily the convoluted storylines that Hideo Kojima was forcing down your throat. It was the gameplay, it was, the
style.
graphics. There was a lot of other stuff going on that he had nothing to do with. And so I wonder sometimes if, as Gundam fans, we put a little too much on Tomino's shoulders and say, oh, well, he's obviously the buttered toast of mecha, right? Like he did all of it. And it's like, well, you know, Yasuhiko Yoshikazu did the excellent character design, and Kunio
Kunio.
Okuwara
Yeah.
is the one that designed the mecha. So
Yeah.
how much are we attributing to Tomino when, you look at those guys didn't really have any influence on Char's counterattack, right? So
They didn't have any influence on Char's counterattack?
not to my knowledge.
So
And
by that time, they had someone else do the design work?
I want to say that, and you know what? I'm going to fact check myself live because I don't want to speak falsehoods, but
I was gonna do that too because I'm actually curious. Because yeah, they'll say mecha designer or whatever.
right. Character design was not Yoshikazu Yasuhiko. It was Hiroyuki Kitazume.
Okay, and the mobile suit designer was Yutaka Izubuchi.
So, I mean,
Hmm.
look, I'm just asking questions. Is Tomino maybe overrated as a director because of the talent that he had around him for 0079 for Zeta Gundam?
That's a good point because I think in the same vein of George Lucas, I don't think that he's overrated. I think any great art of display of storytelling, a lot of times it's a collaboration, even if there's one main direction. But you
Yeah,
always need someone there to be like, "Hey, don't go that far," or
right.
"Don't
To
just don't
reel
do
it in.
that." Like, I don't know if you heard like Guillermo del Toro, Blade 2, it's already crazy that there's vampires' mouths, like their faces open.
Right.
Originally, it was going to open and a little one was going to come out and run up to someone. And then someone was like, yeah, Toro, nah, it's just, nah,
Pump the brakes, kid.
yeah. And it's like, and that's what's funny about like the prequels where George Lucas was like, someone direct this for me. And no one wanted to direct it. So he's like, okay. And then He's like, I want to do this, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, great, George, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't let the yes men in. That's the
Well, it's funny because it's like he should have heard. Like after everyone complains about episode 1, he's like, guys, why didn't anyone tell me? You guys said yes. Yeah, and I bet it's like that with Tomino at some point. Maybe like when Zeta came about, he was able to be like, okay, we're doing. So think about that. He did 0079 that was so successful. Like, okay, Zeta do whatever, and Zeta is like sick, you know.
Yep.
So
But he still
I
had the same team with him.
yeah. So I agree. It's like if he has the right people around, if any creator has or genius has the right people around him, that helps. I think really shape the final product.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, what was I looking at? Oh yeah, Zionic Shadow is also saying I was tired of quests to the foot of my mobile. Wait, I would have tied quests to the foot of my mobile suit and use her as a bumper. Probably the best. I mean, she started destroying those Federation. Was it a Salamis class cruiser that her dad was on and all that stuff? So.
Oh yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of parent, what do you call parental side, patricide and matricide. There's a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of parent killing going on in Gundam, but I
Yeah.
want to say Quest is the first one to kill their own parent when she kills her father.
Yeah. Yeah, because with Camille, it was just other people.
Yeah.
And then, do we ever see Amuro's mom die? I guess he just leaves her, like when he leaves where she was at in that facility helping people. And we don't see her again, do we?
No, he just kind of leaves her on Earth because she begs
Yeah,
him to stop. And same with
yeah.
his father, is like the father, right?
Well, I think with his father, he was just so preoccupied with the Gundam. It's almost like he didn't care about Amuro, and he was
Yeah,
just like,
he'd
"Let me
gone
know how it's."
crazy.
Yeah. So, and then Double Zeta, which is interesting, is Judo's parents were having to go to another colony to make enough money to pay the bills, so they were left alone. So, yeah, to your point, there's a lot of things that have to do with the parents and that.
Yeah.
So, but you know what else? Zeta did the same thing with Kotz and Sarah. Like,
Yeah.
there's always that little thing that you know. But you know what? That does work better for a series than a movie. You know
It
what I
does.
mean? Because it's annoying, but it's not taking up your screen time. And it's character development that you don't care for, but not taking up screen time.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is in here. Zionic Frenwer, not a fan of the meteoric rise of Amuro and MSG, so I did hope he would get a taste of his own medicine in the form of a rookie new type quest and the Alpha Zero kicking his ass, but that didn't happen. You know what? Zionic Frenwer, you do have a lot of good comments. That one, sir, is not. No, I'm joking. I love Amuro. I love his whole story. But yeah, he is kind of like a super hero. You know what I mean? Like his
He has a
only
unique
downside
arc.
was when he didn't want to fight.
Yeah,
You know what I
well,
mean?
and that's kind of one of the I keep pushing this YouTube documentary on NHK that was I want to say it was NHK that the men who created Gundam
Yeah.
they talk about freedom and duty were the core themes of 0079, and I really hone in on that word duty because I hear it
Yeah.
every time Bright slaps Amuro and says get in the Gundam.
Yeah. No, the duty thing is kind of, it's like that responsibility thing
Yeah.
where sometimes he's like, you don't want to, there's like this responsibility that you might have to be responsible for. Yeah. So moving on real quick. By the way, thanks everyone in the chat. The comments are awesome. But Mike 25405 says, "What is your take on the UC 100 and Beyond project? Do you think any of the shows should be retconned or adapted in some way other than Crossbone?" So I didn't have too much information on that, but I remember hearing about it. So I looked up something on this, or did I close it? I might have closed it. Anyway, they were saying something about so from Char's counterattack, right? 0093, for the next 100 years, they're going to start storytelling. And I guess I didn't pick up on that, or that was earlier when I was in Gundam. So if you think about that, that goes pretty far into the future, 193. So we're getting into like Crossbone, like he brought up,
Yep.
territory, even more like victory era related stuff. So I guess it could be more that I didn't even realize that they're gonna jump into. I guess it's starting with Hathaway because they're going through the Hathaway storylines. Crossbone's got to be next.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks for that. And I just kind of like that they announce things like that because it keeps telling me that I'm still gonna have content that I can make videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because that is a route that we haven't
Oh,
seen.
sure.
We've seen a little bit from in Gundam, right? Like, you do. I think to Knights of the Old Republic for Star Wars, right? Kind of took us back 400 years prior to the events of the original trilogy, and so then it would be nice to see some of that kind of development going on in Gundam, and you really can't go much further back because,
Yeah.
UC starts 79 years back, so jump forward, and
You know, could be cool is because from what I understand, it's 0079 isn't it where that's like um wasn't it 1999? Then it goes to Universal Century 1 after 1999? Or am I making that up? I want to say I read that somewhere.
that's interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Okay.
They don't say anything, I think,
Yeah, it wasn't in
explicitly in
it wasn't
Unicorn,
in the
where it's
show.
just like, "We're leaving behind Anno Domini,"
Yeah.
which is interesting because Anno Domini is
Also C
Double
or
O.
what would you double O?
Right, yeah, Double O
Oh,
is set
okay.
in AD, right? So
Yeah. Interesting. But I might need to get confirmation on that. I could just be talking out of my butt with that. Okay.
that's all we do here.
Oh wait, Brian Zanichelli. I think in Super Robot Wars, Amuro pretty much acted like a father to Quest. I think that was probably the intention, and then she got jealous.
Yeah.
But okay. So next up, yeah, this whole thing about the Witch from Mercury producer. Modern teens think Gundam is for old people, and so really, I didn't read this, but I just thought, no, because I think that's an interesting thing to talk about because, you know, being someone born in America, raised in America, living in America, mecha anime is not a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
but I can understand something like 0079, 1979, people growing up with that, and then it's for kids. It's just or not that it's for kids. What I'm trying to say, it's for adults, and that's almost like what happened with Star Wars. Because you think of how when people go online and talk toxic about Star Wars, usually older people that are like so invested because they've loved it, and people hate the sequels, but they love the OT, and then those collector items are expensive. So it's like I think it's the same thing. The only difference is actually there's no difference. I was about to say, does Gundam target kids? Yeah, they have SD.
Yeah.
So I think this is probably just a hot take.
Yeah, I think that this was definitely a clickbaity title for sure.
Yeah.
And it, I think that there's value in stirring controversy around a new series or a new property, just to draw in new viewers, if only for the hate watchers and the hate bait YouTubers. But yeah, I don't know anybody personally that that would suggest that Gundam is like an old people's. It's like I
You
can't
know what though?
imagine someone telling me that Gigantor is only for old people.
Well, you know what? This is a good point because, like, let's say you wanted to show someone a recent movie in UC. You can go Hathaway or Cuckoo's Stone's Island, and those are completely different, which is
Yeah.
very fascinating. Because really, Hathaway is an adult-oriented, like spy thriller almost, and Cuckoo's Stone's Island is almost like a Disney-themed, like adventure story with kids. And I'm reading some here. They said they hope that the teen audience would be able to identify with characters who don't personally feel impacted by large scale political events at first. That could be a Japan thing. Actually, that could be a general audience thing. I don't know in the West or whatever how much people care about like the background political landscape in stories. And I tend to for some reason. I don't know why. It's like I feel like if I'm going to be presented a story, I want to know the background to really to have, I guess, invested interest in it. I guess I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
so It's interesting because if you think about it, the first episode of Witch from Mercury was like a cool, like going to the school and then a duel happens, but the prologue was so politics heavy and
It
dark.
was.
So it's almost like they were purposely saying, okay, the prologue is for the old people. Episode 1 is for everyone else, you know? So
Well, and
that's
I think it's easier than it has ever been to make a show that is both for kids and adults because I mean, hey, I'm a new dad here. I watch a lot of Bluey with my daughter and you know, that's one of those shows where it's like there's something for the kids and then there's something for the adults and you know, sometimes you have to dig a little bit to find it, but you know, there's the episode where Bluey walks for the first time and it's like you know that episode resonates with my wife so much because she's like, oh man, that's like when you know someday our daughter's going to walk to me in the kitchen, it's going to be amazing, and like I tear up watching it. There's a
yeah,
way to do that, and the stigma about adults watching cartoons is not nearly as high as it was, you
yeah,
know, 20, 30 years ago.
I
So
agree.
like the idea of sitting down with your kids and watching a Gundam series in the 80s versus sitting down with your kids and watching a Gundam series in 2020, totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It reminds me too of when I was a kid. And again, this could be cultural differences between the West and in Japan, but like, you know, there was as a kid, I was watching mature shows and it was impactful. Sometimes there'd be things that were very interesting, like to
Yeah,
consider. You know, like there's some what was it? We're watching something yesterday. There's a show called 911 on ABC. Have you heard of it? It's
I've
actually
heard of it.
really
I've never
well
watched it.
done. Yeah, I tend not to watch too many TV shows if they don't have robots or they're not illustrated, but no.
Yeah.
What was interesting about it is it had mature themes, but done in a way that's almost like a knowledge transfer to the viewer of like,
It's
here
like
is a
accessible.
reality. Yeah. And I was for my son to see that, I was like, you know, there's dark stuff in it, serious stuff, but it's like it's more of the serious, realistic kind of um lesson. And it reminds me when as a kid, the stuff I was watching was the badass stuff. It was or that I loved. It wasn't like the cutesy things, even though I liked it. I was still more gravitated toward the action. So I think they don't know. I think a lot of what they're not. I I think at any couple months, everyone's habits change. Now that on social media, any new thing can pop up and change everyone's habits for the next few months. How people watch things, where they watch them. So yeah, we'll see. I think Gundam will always be here, though.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. All right. So hey, here's something that's pretty cool. I love the robot spirits. Apparently, this was announced already, and I missed it. But there's going to be a robot spirits of Garma's custom Zaku 2, which that's awesome. And then
Yeah,
yeah, is it Magella or Magella?
I've always said
That-
Magella, but you
Okay,
know, I
Magella.
also say GIF, so that's
That's right. That's right. But you know, it is GIF. Um, or is it GIF? Now I don't know anymore. I think I've gone to the other side. No, but and then it comes with that DOP, right?
yeah,
Their
old
aircraft,
dot
and
fighter.
it's a Garma version, which is cool because I have from the 08 MS team the green one. So to me, this is like exactly something I would get. That's Robot
Oh yeah.
Spirits because it has like well, what did you call it in your the Gundam 5e character sheet? You know the naming for the land and
Oh, combat crafts.
combat craft. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love combat craft. I like that term. That's a good one.
Thank you. That
Um,
was years of R&D. We had some focus groups that we called in to talk about it.
the 7-year-olds hated it. No, I don't know.
They said, "Why
Um,
are you old guys playing with mecha toys?"
so anyway, I was like, well, then, so he had a Zaku 2. Let's look at this. So this is one of many variants that the Zaku 2 has. Obviously, Zaku 2 is like one of the favorites of people. You know, it's like the RX-78 too. You won't say
Now,
it's your favorite,
was the
but
first appearance of this in the Zeonic Front video game?
let's
Because I could
see.
swear that that was the first time I ever saw it. Because it's obviously not in the
Um,
series, right? Garma never uses a mobile suit in the series.
so it looks like there's some manga. Gears Greed. And then what were you saying?
Zionic Front on the PS2.
Zionic.
One of the
was that in that?
Yeah, one of the unlockable characters is Garma in his Zaku 2, which
What was it in Gundam Battle Operation 2 also?
yeah, I think it's one of the easier suits to get, I want to say.
I didn't know.
You got the
Didn't
oversized
know.
heat hawk and all that good stuff.
Oh, here's that Shin Matsunaga custom.
Yeah, not
That's
sure
on
how
this
that
page.
made it onto the page.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. But you know, so let's look at it. Vulcan gun on its head. Oh, wow. So at the top here, so 2 on each side of the commander antenna. That's interesting. Let's see, Vulcan gun, shoulder shield, machine gun. Okay, a couple different machine guns, bazooka, heat hawk.
Yeah, standard Zaku
rifle.
fare.
Oh, it's so he also carries the main gun of that Magella tank.
Which
So
I think
it's
is
like
so
as if
cool. They just like take the Magella top cannon and
that's something I did not know about. Is that like a thing in Gundam lore where they take the maybe that might be it. That's pretty cool.
yeah, it kind of looks like it.
Let's see what else. Man, it's just got everything. It's got every weapon that Xeon would have in the 1 year war. Special equipment rocket booster. So rocket booster for auxiliary propulsion attached to each side of the backpack and is used for high altitude jumps under gravity. This is the same equipment as used by the MS-06F2 Zaku 2 F2 type, which let's see, the F2 type. Oh, that's what we see in Stardust Memory.
Late War. Yeah.
Interesting. So we are already seeing those advancements, obviously, on a top ranking member, a family member.
Obviously, zombies have got to get the best.
Yeah. Okay, so that's actually
why his designated color is like poo brown, though.
Yeah, that was weird. That the color, have his suit. It's like I guess they didn't want to do pink or like red comet look, but still, I like the Vulcans though on the head. That's actually
that's pretty slick.
Okay, did I read everything on that? Yeah. So, here we go. When Garma Zabi was assigned to Earth, he brought his customized Zaku FS type with him. However, he rarely sortied with after being assigned to a leadership role. Ace pilots Gabby Hazard, Eric Manfield, and Shin Matsunaga also piloted these machines. Garma's unit was eventually piloted by Zeon's agent Terra 1 or Terra I. Never heard of that. Oh, Terra I Cicero. During the events in Mobile Suit Gundam, we're Federation hooligans. It was last seen being exhibited in New York for the 10th anniversary of Liberation in UC90. Man, a lot of lore here that I didn't know too much.
That does sound like something the zombies would do, is like have Garma have a designated Zaku and then have like an ace pilot like ghost piloting for him.
Yeah. That actually is a neat little thing. Some more. You know what? I'm going to go drag this link into my research folder for later. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, we're getting near the end. Was there something I was going to look at? Oh, yeah. There's an update on SD Gundam Battle Lines, which I need to keep playing more of. I think I played it so much that I got sick of it and stopped playing. But actually, I went back into it. The patch with the latest DLC. So up to now 10 extra missions they've added, which I don't think is DLC. I think the EX missions are just extra.
Yeah.
And then they're adding new like I'm saying perks, but I know they have a different name in this game. But they have something for extended magazine, which is cool because I like the option of being able to make a sharpshooter where you can extend shooting a lot, because it's really cool. I love the strategy in the game, especially if you're using a sharpshooter and you want to reload real quick and then have extra buffs on your shooting or ranged attacks.
Yeah, for sure. I play a sharpshooter and then I have a bunch of infighters as my squad and have them draw fire while I hide in the corner. And
dude, that's a good idea for those harder mobile armors that are like insane. You like have to strategize that way. Yeah, I'll normally do a sharpshooter, and yeah, have infighters, all rounders help out. Okay. Oh, Ian Hansen saying the mods of GE should name ourselves the Fetty Hooligans. Yeah, I like that. Remind me to do something about that if I haven't.
Zionic Shadow and I have some words about that.
Well,
Can't
yeah,
be the
you
Fetty
need.
Who. No, it would actually be fitting because, of course, like over on my server, the mod squad is all, you know,
Xeon.
Cassilia's rear guard and
Cool.
Garma's attack force, Giran's guard, that kind of stuff. So, we're the Xeon side.
That's
You guys
cool.
can
Yeah,
be the
we should
Federation
play
hooligans.
into that more. I know we've talked about that before, but I do want to play into that more. I even think Ian might or Goose might have said something like that too.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Zionic Fenrir, I think the MSO7W was meant for Garma, but he died before the machine itself was finished. So let me look.
that is the dop the goof combined test type, right? That has a dop
Oh,
that docks with it.
that's sick. That's exactly right, and it looks fantastic. It has that
It's kind of
double.
silly. You can see like a dop in its chest. It's
Let me move that over and share it just real quick because oh my god, so many windows open. What am I doing? No, because that looks sick. Yeah, I've looked at this before because the link was purple. Um, but yeah, I love it. It reminds me of how you're doing that custom where you're having the spikes. You could if you wanted to, like this.
hey,
That
there's number two.
actually that might be a lot of work, but I think that would be a great, especially once you get it down. Because look at like all the little like things you would have to paint. That
Yeah,
would be a cool one.
yeah, that would be
Okay,
a
you were
lot of
saying
fun.
something about it docking. Oh,
Yeah,
I
so
love
it's like
that.
the dop kind of like folds in half and then docks into the back of the goof, which is
I love that.
that is yeah the most Megazord thing.
And you know what I've learned too? We were talking about the artist at the beginning, like Kunio Okiawa.
Mhm.
Okiawa, was saying that right? Um, and like I think he has a way where if you look at an illustration, you can tell it's him, right?
Oh yeah,
Like this, for instance. Or did some other staff members just take this kind of structure and then start making more variations like that? I don't know if all these are just him or they just started using that standard
it's
for design.
definitely interesting seeing the kind of different interpretations, right? Like, and
Yeah.
and you're starting to see that more with the origin mangas. Seeing
Oh yeah.
Yasuhiko's interpretation of what these mobile suits look like, which they kind of have some deformed proportions and things like that. But it's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, cool. Yeah, we're at the end of it. Let's see if there's any more chats before we break off here. A goof with a doc for the dop fighter. Give me dats. Yeah, I like that. Give me dats. Sounds like something Haru would
Gibbs.
say.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Brian Zanchillian, Gunbreaker Mobile. I collected the parts of the Rigazi Custom in the game. Yeah, I heard they just announced or they just released the Rigazi Custom in Gunbreaker Mobile, even though I'm not playing it, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jedi says thing. It's kind of like how the Crossbone Gundam Score Fighter docks into the back and becomes the rear thrusters, and that's my
Mhm.
favorite like docking thing.
Oh, yeah. And
Let's
just like
see.
X wings out.
Yeah, yeah, and the ship design is pretty cool. And then Xeonic Friendware, have you ever seen the MSO7B goof that Mukuve? Oh, his custom puts the zombies machines to shame. MSO7B. I can't
I
like copy
mean,
paste.
it's very Bakuve.
Is it? Okay, so oh yeah, that should be here. Yep, Mukuve custom. Yeah. Wow, I bet there's some awesome custom Gunpla out there. I mean, I love it. You know what? This is pretty cool because when we saw what they had, what's his name? Dozel Zabi's Zaku 2 look like. It's all fancy. Now, was
Yeah.
that recently or was that done back in the 80s?
I wanna say that design is old, but
Oh,
yeah.
because that's very cool. Like, I mean, like a modernized like detail to add. Because I look at this and I'm like, well, this looks like an old drawing too. So, but it's good, cool detail. So anyway, I guess that's it. That was a good show. Good hour of good Gundam talking. Did I miss anything?
No, no, I think we did pretty good, and we made it through it without like what, maybe 5 minutes of G Witch talk.
I know, and limiting the video game talk too. Well,
Yeah.
guys, thanks for joining. This is always a lot of fun. I love this new way where I can see the chats easier and there's less technical difficulties. If anyone has any other comments or suggestions, let me know. Also, and I didn't put the link in the description because I have to do it differently. Check out Steven's stuff. I mean, if it's not on this video, any video is going to have his links to his stuff because, like, even though we're both Gundam, his stuff is way more different. It's more about the gunpla, more about the customizing. Even his Patreon has more, I think, physical value, especially if you're a hobbyist and stuff. So you should check that stuff out. Yeah, and I think we're
Yeah,
good.
someone's gotta represent the Gunpla side, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I feel like I still have so much more I need to learn. I tell you, like when I do a review of a Gunpla, sometimes I'm like in my head, like, but I always think it's the enjoyment of the Gundam or the Gunpla that I like, not that I'm a master builder.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the build is part of the enjoyment of it. It's not, you know,
Oh,
it's
you know what? I'm sorry to cut you off. Zionic Shadow just remind me because on your stream next week, Saint
yeah,
Kingdom. So that's gonna
Saint
be sick.
Kingdom.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm
So
very excited for that one. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
best reason if you guys haven't followed Steven's channel yet. So anyway, that is it. So thanks all. Yeah, talk later.